and we are going to go through and check out our syllabus first. So again, one last time here, if I come into the syllabus and I scroll down the list here, we are on week 5. After we see what everybody did with the painting project, I'm going to go through chapter 9 files really quick and chapter 10 files. Everything is due. All the Photoshop files are due by midnight Thursday. Tomorrow, or I'm sorry, Wednesday, I'm going to be reviewing your final exam. What I'm going to do here on the syllabus, just to avoid any confusion here, I'll go through and edit this right now. You do not need to turn in all digital files because you've already done that. So there we go. All we're doing on Wednesday is review for the final. So there's no confusion there. Okay. We're going to look at those and talk about chapter 9 and 10, and then we will go through this. So again, on Thursday, the final exam test will be a 40-question multiple choice. There's like 20 multiple choice questions on Illustrator, 20 about Photoshop. They're pretty basic. I'll review some of those with you on Wednesday. I will open up that final at midnight Wednesday. So if you're up at 12:30 in the morning on Thursday, you could take the test. You have until midnight on Thursday to get the final exam done. So I will meet with you one last time just to say goodbyes and whatnot and add in a few extra notes. Amy, stop that. To add in a few extra notes. But then after that, you'll have till midnight to get it all done. Okay. So I'm going to be looking at what you guys did for the painting project, and then going through chapter 9 and 10, and that will finish us up. So we'll do a review on Wednesday. Okay, so I'm going to come into my folder here for summer and go to my summer files for project 2. Marin, let's see, there we go. All right, first, before I go through this file, are there any comments or critiques on the project itself before I go through that? Any suggestions, comments, critiques if I'm doing this class again in the future? I never know if I'm doing it again next summer or not. That's too far in advance. But do you have any comments about the project itself, good or bad? Any comments whatsoever?
It was fun. Thought it was fun.
Thought it was fun. Okay, I like that. Is there anything you would change about the project? Yeah, like Danny is writing, it was very fun. I like that we got to do character design. I try to incorporate that a little more into my illustration projects because as I've noticed through the years, actually, even though this is an illustration class, I get less and less illustration students. Half the class is animation or entertainment arts. I get a fair share of graphic design students as well. So I like to throw in always a character design project. Other than how, yeah, okay, Sebastian, I get it. Okay, what about the subject matter of the periodic table? Was that a good choice to kind of base a character design off of, or do you have any other suggestions that I could start to think about for next year?
I thought it was good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was a
I
good.
thought it was
I
interesting.
like science, so
Yeah.
Okay. 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 So it helps to have a science background. Okay. No, you guys gave me some really good examples that I could show in the future. How about create your own dinosaur? I tried doing that one time. I thought I had a good idea where I said, take a Pokemon and render it as a realistic character, a realistic dinosaur. But then I found a guy on Google who already did that. So like, shoot, never mind. So I tried
and
to
he
find
worked on the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of that same idea, but a lot of them have already been done. So I kind of disappear from that. I don't want to outright copy what other people have done. So I do find a lot of stuff that other artists have done, like the stained glass windows or line art and stuff like that. A lot of students will show me some artwork through Instagram or other websites, Society6 and whatnot. And that'll give me some ideas for future projects. So if you ever have any ideas, let me know. I'm always scouring around looking at what other artists have done and seeing if I can put my own twist on that. So keep that in mind. Okay. So Marion, you had bismuth first of the entire periodic table. What made you choose bismuth? Marion, is your microphone on?
Oh, yes, it is.
There you go. Okay. So what made you choose this element? Why not gold? Why not helium? What made you choose bismuth?
Oh, I chose bismuth because it was like the most colorful out of every group.
Okay.
And I wanted to do something a little bit more, I guess, colorful instead of just the usual gray of all the metallic stuff or copper.
Okay. I like that you incorporated the crystalline kind of structure to that. People who've done bismuth before, they tend to go with that geometric kind of design in the structure of the crystals. It always has that kind of purplish tone, which is great. Iridescent, I definitely get that. The figure, the body form itself has this kind of metallic feel, but that shade from the pink to the purple to the bluish purple was great. I like the fact that you emphasize that in the background as well with that crystalline structure. That was a really cool way to kind of emphasize the creature.
Yeah.
I wish there was a little more painterliness to it because again, it got that very comic book, almost like Adobe Illustrator kind of look and feel, where we see a bold blue outline. We see those outlines instead of, you know, the mark of the artist, the brush strokes in there. So I wish there was a little more of a painterly look to this, and that would have been it. I like the way you designed the body. I wish there was a little bit more of a contrast around the eyes, because that light gold outline right next to that light blue on the body makes the eyes a little hard to see. So I wish there was a little more contrast in that and a little bit more of a painterly approach to this character, and that would have been it. Okay?
All right.
Somebody is still doing ASMR on my microphone.
Yeah, I can't really hear the whispers, but thank you very much.
Okay. Okay.
So can we change a little bit and then email you the change?
If you
or-
want, yes, I'll take them till Thursday.
All right, thank you.
Yes. That's why we do these things. Yes, it definitely helps to see what other people have done as well. So Miranda,
I'm here.
how's it going?
Not too bad. Sorry about that earlier with the wind. I was actually trying to hurry up and get home. I had to go to the store real quick.
No problem. What happened down here? Why is all this extra white space here?
Oh, I am not sure. It shouldn't have uploaded that way.
Wait, what extra white space? I don't know what you're talking about, Chris. Never mind. Okay, let me just crop that out. There we go. So
I
you
didn't
were
know it
saying
uploaded like that.
you were saying something in a message when you turned it in. You were saying it's not done.
And not yet. So I wanted to actually push more of the shine in the metal, as well as put some of the crystal effect that I have in the background to the ones on, like, you know, the shoulder and everything else. And I still need to do the horns on
Okay.
there.
I was going to say the same thing with the armor and the crystal. What you have right now is a lot of mid-tone to dark values. We don't have a lot of those highlights. We don't have a lot of that reflective quality. So especially when you look at, you know, if you look at the way the pants are painted, the red skin is painted, then it's the same way the crystals are painted, but crystals are hard, they're reflective. They don't have that reflective quality. So they start to feel like skin, or they start to feel like pants. So the armor is the same thing. Put in some glaring little whites, some real bright aquas in those crystals up to that white reflective quality, and this sucker will shine. That'll look awesome.
Awesome. Exactly what you're saying, exactly what I was actually looking at doing. I just had to take a little bit of a break, even though like I really wanted to get it done all last night, but my wrist was actually starting to hurt. So I had to stop.
I totally get that. When people have asked me like, hey, do you really like online teaching? Yes, except the carpal tunnel syndrome I'm starting to develop from being on the computer all the time. So when you say your wrist was hurting, I totally get it. What the other thing that I would change on this, when I look at the illustration right off the bat, the only way I know it is cobalt is that tiny, tiny word cobalt. There should be like a title right up here, cobalt, and then CO, cobalt, and then we read about it. I would also ease up on the text. There's so much here that it had to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Just give me 1 or 2 little paragraphs. Cut out half of this stuff if it doesn't really talk about the illustration. That's just way too much type because your illustration is so big, it's pushing its way in. It's kind of bullying the type and pushing it out of the way. Ease up on the type if you're going to go with the size of the illustration that you have.
Yeah, no worries. It was just more of a placeholder for that one, just
Good.
until like I actually went through and actually redid it and summarized it all.
Okay. Yeah, and just give us a title. We need to recognize that right away, and you got a great piece. Couple little specular highlights. This thing's going to shine. It's going to look awesome.
I totally forgot about the title, so thank you for reminding me on that. I'll fix that.
There we go. You are like 90% there. So
Yay.
again, any changes you want to make, I will take them up till midnight on Thursday. Right up to the end. Coleman.
Yes.
I have never found arsenic to be so enjoyable. I love this guy. Arsenic, otherwise, even your font. I love your choice of font. It goes with that stylization of the illustration. Arsenic, otherwise known by its symbol AS. I would probably emphasize that because I didn't really see that until I read it. Arsenic, otherwise known by its symbol as, is a chemical. You know, it doesn't stand out as AS. Especially when you look at it right next to an A right there, an S right there, it just reads as a word. So if you wanted to emphasize that with a color, maybe pick a color from the fish or a blue, something to emphasize that, or put it in a bolder font. Found in multiple minerals. I love the fact that it can be found in fish and shellfish. You got all that right there. This character just looks happy as heck to feed you poison. I love that illustration. The only thing I wish was that it had a little bit more of a painterly approach to it. It just has this really super clean look. I mean, I love the details that you're starting to get right here. These strokes are great. When I start to get up in here, then it starts to have more of that feel like an Adobe Illustrator file where you're getting almost line-oriented, flat colors, where this definitely has more of a, I'm just going to paint in my values really quick. So it is kind of a way to experiment. I love what's going on with these values here. That is really cool. That's the only thing that as an alternate piece, or if there was texture, even that could break up the flat look. If this coat had more of a patterned texture to it, or a fur-like texture or something, if the pants had fabric texture, so the pants are not as smooth as the shirt, which is as smooth as the jacket, those kind of things. Treat fabric differently than you would treat skin tone, things of that nature. But that's it. Just surface treatments would be it if I had to pick at anything on this. You're obviously an animation major.
No, I'm illustration.
Wow, this guy has such a great animated pose to him as well. This is awesome. I just love that dynamic quality. He doesn't look stiff. He doesn't look straight up and bored. I wish you would do the whole periodic table. This would be great. Like, wow, let's make chemistry as exciting as possible. I could see this being lifted right out of a page of a children's book, teaching kids about chemistry.
That would be fun.
Stuff. Great stuff.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the only thing. is I want to take advantage of the fact that we have those painterly abilities in Photoshop. So we can definitely tell the difference between the two. Esme,
Hi,
how are you?
pretty good.
I love the fact that you have this mysterious kind of character. I wish there was more, just right off the bat when I glance at it, I wish there was more emphasis on the character, less emphasis on this big rectangular shape. Like I wish this area was a little smaller. We could see the gas kind of coming across here, almost like fading out some of the type. Because again, one of the visual tests that I use all the time is when I'm testing out a composition, I will create a brand new layer and I will design a little box like this and do something like that. Okay, where over half of the composition is just type. And then when I move that box over, there's a huge part of the composition that doesn't really interact except a little bit of this overlap. And then we could see this box is creeping over half of this composition where we're just getting, come on, this little character coming in here. I wish there was more of this gas, or we see Chernobyl off in the background. Like, where's all this uranium coming from? Little things like that that would tell the story. Where is this coming from? If you didn't have that, have the gas creeping right into your text. That way you unify it. Instead of this gas just stopping at the corner, why doesn't it go way out here? Why don't we see it peeking out from behind the sign or coming right across the type where we could read the type through the gas? We would feel kind of like we're choking on this illustration. I think that would look really cool. Okay, I think there should be just a little more unification in the composition than just character on the left, type on the right. That's the thing I would look at. And what was the idea with the little splatters on his outfit?
So I looked up what uranium looked like, and it's gray, and it actually has like yellowish splatters inside of it. So that's why I added that.
Got it. Is uranium like a metal?
Yeah, it's a radioactive gray metal.
Okay. I wish this plaque was made of uranium. Bring some of that in. If this uniform represents uranium, have the whole nameplate represent uranium, or at least the title or the U, so we can have that association back and forth. I think that would help it. Okay?
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Let's go with Jessica. Niobium. So Jessica,
Hello.
how's it going?
Good.
What made you pick niobium?
When I looked it up, I was looking at like how the anodized form is like super colorful, and I thought that was really interesting.
I love that fluorescent kind of quality that you're getting in this gradient. I love the fact that you put the color in the name of the element. You've got your leading spread apart, so it's easy to read this. And the fact that you're incorporating the color back into the figure, that's great. One of the things that when I first glanced at this, I really noticed the color because this chameleon character was kind of just flat, kind of silvery gray. I'm like, why is there no, oh, it's a silvery metal. Right off the bat, you described what I'm looking at, and that was great. It took all the guesswork out of it. Then I could relax and read about the rest of this. Really cool. Superconductor, all the electricity. It's not just around this character. It's buzzing around throughout the rest of the composition. You're done.
Thank you.
Great job. I love the fact that you grounded the character, cast a little shadow so the character is not just floating in the air. It's actually standing on a surface. This stuff goes behind the character, over the top of the character, outside, all around. Just great way to fill out the composition. Awesome job.
Thank you.
Yep. Really cool work. And what I'll do at the end, I did this with my class last semester. when I get all of these, I'll probably wait until, after midnight Thursday. I put them together in like a PDF book. So you would get a booklet about chemistry and you could kind of have a collection and see what everybody put together. Or if you have little kids living in your house, a cousin or a niece or whatever, you could teach them about chemistry. Because I'm actually going to do that. In another week, my niece and nephew are flying in from Oregon, and I'm going to show them this PDF and show them about chemistry because my nephew's all about science right now. Plutonium, Noah. Is Noah in? Saw his name on here earlier. No, did he leave? Anybody got any comments about plutonium?
Looks like a Reggie from Pokemon.
Okay. Is that in a good way?
No, I like it. It's like the metal plutonium version.
I read Lillian's comment. I feel like this could be a Ben 10 transformation. I kind of saw that too, like a Ben 10 alien. I really like this creature aspect to this character. At first, when I started reading this, plutonium is a silvery radioactive metal. I'm like, okay, why does he look all dull and gray and kind of these yellowish tints? But then I went on to read it, giving and tarnishes in the air. That was perfect. It explained why I'm looking at it. So again, you got to read through the text. Given the element a yellow oxide coating, it has 6 allotropic forms that vary in crystal structures. So we got our 6 crystals here. Really cool. Plutonium is used in nuclear bombs and reactors. I wish there was something else. Well, he's getting it here. The element has been used as heat and power sources. So I thought that was really cool. We have this steaming look like he just walked out of a nuclear reactor. I thought that was really cool. I wish there was, again, I commented to him when he showed me this, a little more darkness. If you're saying nuclear bombs and reactors, if there was a glow around it, or if there was a greenish glow like a reactor, or just more darkness to really make this character look menacing. I love that heat aspect, but where is it coming out from? If there was a darker area, this void, this character would look awesome. I love that he's got the title. The text is easy to read. Great little textures in here. I think it's done. If he wanted to, you could add a little bit more background effect, make that steam really show off, or have the word plutonium smoking. It's just a fun little character to look at. He summarized it all up pretty well. Isaac.
Yes.
How's it going today?
This is pretty good.
Excellent. What made you choose bismuth? Because you got a totally different look than the first time we saw bismuth.
I just really I chose bismuth because it's really colorful, and then I had a piece before, but I lost it, so I wanted to try doing it again.
So in your second time around, what did you change?
Well, no, I want to try doing bismuth because I had one, and I wanted to try to.
Had one what? What do you mean?
I had a piece of bismuth.
Oh, you had bismuth. Okay.
Yeah.
You said I had one. I was like, oh, I thought you had one illustration. Okay. What I liked about this is that it reads as an entire scene. It doesn't read as, hey, I got a character over here, type over here. The type runs right over a little bit of the illustration. The illustration goes all the way through. You have a completed product. You're done. Great textures on the character. Love the lighting effect, how that light source is lighting up the edges of the bismuth. It's darker on the backside. You have this steam coming out. You've got a foreground element, middle ground element, background element. Your text is all easy to read over all that busyness. Great job. You're done. Beautiful work. I love this painted effect.
Thank you.
This sums up the project greatly. Nice work. That's always a problem when you're incorporating text in with an illustration. They tend to kind of compete with each other. So, Amy.
Hello.
Did you get my text about, or my email?
I did, and I added a gradient overlay to the fins.
Okay. I love how you didn't just do a solid fish. Again, I was looking at all this purple, so I immediately react to colors and details that I see before I even read the type. I'm like, well, she's got all this splash of purple, but this fish looks like it's just metal. Iodine is a non-metallic, nearly black salt. Never mind, I get it. It has glittering, crystalline. Because again, I start making these associations right away and thinking, nearly black solid. Well, this thing ain't looking black, and then has glittering crystalline appearance. You summed it up again. Great. I love that we read that right away. It describes what I'm looking at. When heated, iodine sublimes to form a purple vapor. I love the fact that you have this solid fading away. I still get the idea that I'm looking at a fin or a tail coming off of that. I thought that was cool. I wish there was, like I said, a little bit more of that purple, only because in terms of color, we get all of our beautiful wispy color over here. We get a hint of it right here. I love the fact that the iodine is kind of transitioning into this, but in the background, we're still getting that flat blue all the way across. Like I said, if you had a cup of water and you dropped food dye into the water, it would just spread and dissipate. So if this purple, if the fish was swimming, this purple would be trailing off. Or if the fish swam in a circle, you'd see a light trail, and then it would get more solid, more purple, more purple, just to break up that flat blue of the background. That would have been it. Not the character itself, but the fact that you have this gassiness just kind of ending at the tip of a tail instead of tapering off. That would have been it.
Okay.
Love the fact that the text describes the illustration. But again, it's still illustration on the left, text on the right. How do we kind of unify those?
Okay.
That would be it.
Thank you.
Cool. Let's see. Okay. Grace.
I'm here.
Why? So when you first, what made you choose potassium? Because potassium is usually like a vitamin, a mineral that you get in a banana. It adds energy, it adds health. Your character is like a Jabba the Hutt who's smoking. Where does this come from?
Yeah. So I looked through like a billion different like cool elements lists trying to come up with like, you saw that I had curium at the beginning, and I like totally scratched that because I was like, that's not cool enough. And I just thought of potassium and was like, I can definitely do something with that. And potassium is also really bad for you if you have too much of it.
Okay. So,
hence the cigarette. I just thought I'd throw that in there, make him look a little more badass, I guess.
Yeah. He's definitely, yeah. And I just follow this tail. I immediately thought Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
Big tail body. So when you're saying, oh, I put the cigarette in there, he's got this kind of laid back look. He's kind of dull and gray, like it's unhealthy. Are you saying that anywhere in your text?
No.
Okay. That's what I was looking for. Like if you said, or even at the end, too much, potassium is great for energy, but too much makes you sluggish and can cause health issues. Then I'd be like, hey, she nailed it. Okay, sure. This guy looks like he has health issues. So that's the only thing I would look at. I started to look at, okay, it quickly reacts to water to create hydrogen gas. I got that gassiness effect right there, in which it catches fire and like, okay, I can kind of make that association with a little bit of fire there. A brilliant lilac color. You're describing all that. I'm just wondering where the body pose, the body anatomy came from. And I wasn't getting that in the text. So that's the only thing I would look at.
Okay.
If you're saying shiny lustrous metal, I would, let's see, is incredibly soft at room temperature, not to be cut with a knife. It has a high oxidation rate. I would also mention a popular source of potassium is bananas. Otherwise, again, if I showed this to a kid who's reading or learning about chemistry, they're not going to know, why is there a banana there.
Sure.
If there was a mention of the banana, that would help. If there was a mention that too much of that, kids are like, hey, if one banana's good, 10 would be great. Like, no, 10, you're going overboard. It could cause that health. Little bit of extra text to describe what we're looking at. I think you would have it.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm just getting a little confusion, especially the whole banana part. I know that because I know where potassium comes from, but we're not mentioning that in the text. Coming, tungsten.
Hello, I'm here.
Discovered by 2 Spanish chemists. The name tungsten was named by a Swedish chemist. Heavy stone in Swedish. Okay. As a hard, let me see. As a hard metal, I get that. It kind of reminds me of the movie The Iron Giant. Tungsten has the highest melting, lowest vapor pressure. I wish there was some element of that. Either the hand melting, especially next to this brightness of the yellow, highest tensile strength, alloying small quantities of tungsten with steel greatly increases toughness. Again, we're describing the robot. Cutting and drilling, that was perfect. I see the blade and the drill bit. That was great. Alloys have been used in armor piercing shells and hypersonic missiles. All of that is really cool. I wish there was something to maybe make reference to the country of origin. This whole first paragraph, it's kind of like tungsten was discovered by 2 Spanish chemists. Okay, but why are you telling us that? We don't have any reference to that. Maybe if you pick some of the colors of the flag and put them in there, it's kind of like a little nod to Spain. Or tungsten was named by a Swedish chemist. Where is our element of Sweden? Since, again, almost that entire paragraph is talking about countries of origin, but we're not getting that in the illustration. So I'm not sure why that's really being mentioned as prominently as it is. Means heavy stone in Swedish. I get the texture. That was great. Then we start to describe this body. So I wish there was a little bit of those countries of origin somewhere referenced in this, and I think you'd have a great piece.
Okay, I will fix that.
Great job in that whole robotic look. I love that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Montrosa. Boron. Giovanni.
Yes.
Boron. What made you pick boron after reading about it? What made you decide, you read about it and go, that's the one I want to draw?
The first thing that caught my attention was that it just burns green fire.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And also I just picked it because it's not really that well known among just the general people.
True.
So
True.
just pick something not well known.
I wish this had much more of an intergalactic feel. You're mentioning right here, boron is only produced by supernovas and cosmic ray. What is spallation?
I would have to look that up.
Okay, yeah, I've never heard.
Yeah.
Supernovas and cosmic rays. But here I get that he's just kind of standing on the ground. If he is standing on the ground, I would put a ground plane, some kind of cast shadow. So again, it's not just kind of floating in the air. Right here, you're saying chemically uncombined boron is not found naturally on Earth. So again, you're making that reference to galactic, outer space kind of stuff. I wish there was like a supernova background. This character looks, if you've ever read Marvel Comics, there's characters that fly through space. They're Galactus's heralds. They come to Earth. So, and they have fire powers and stuff like that. If you're talking about, let's see right here, produces a green flame when burned and is common in pyrotechnics and fireworks. We need explosives. We need explosions, fireworks, booms. This flame looks really small. It doesn't look that dramatic. And when it has that hard edge, it starts to feel more like he's holding a plant or a character instead of fire and flame. If there was a background, have fireworks exploding in the background. We need some of that excitement. Pyrotechnics are chaotic, but we got this really sedate kind of calm scene here. So if there was more of that, I think that would emphasize that explosive aspect of boron. Okay.
Okay.
That would be it. Just give me more of the background to kind of emphasize the flame and pyrotechnic and cosmic aspects of this character.
Okay.
Cool.
Got it. Thank you, Sensei.
Yep. Let's see, Hope. Is Hope in? Hope, I don't see her. Anybody got any comments about her character Gallium? The soft silvery metal. However, in its liquid state, it becomes silvery white. It's a non-toxic version of mercury. Clings to or wets glass and similar surfaces. Gallium attacks most other metals by diffusing into the metal lattice. Any comments on gallium?
I would say, since it mentions it likes to cling to or wets glass and similar surfaces, it would be nice to see some of that glass or surface. Maybe it'll be like having it sit on it.
I was going to say that instead of sitting on the ground when she says clings, I wish that was a doll, like a little blob fell and was like clinging to the edge of this box, or dripping off the end of the type, or sitting right here. Like she's talking about GA. So what if there was a blob, it was just dripping down the periodic table? Like who cares about chromium or MO? I don't even know what that is. We don't care. We're talking about gallium. So that would be cool. Instead of just these random little blobs, what if they interacted with something else in the composition? I think that'd be really cool. Diffuse it. I love the fact that it's devouring this metal and the metal is becoming part of the character. That, you know, be cautious around gallium if you're a metal. I thought that was great, just devouring other metal. But I agree, this doesn't make sense, as this character looks nice and solid. If it clings, show us that it clings. Either cling to the box or cling to that. She's got this great texture. I love that character. It's just this blob of metal that devours and incorporates other metal. That was really cool. I would wonder about the green though. Maybe if she said, well, I picked up the green because it's in the green of the periodic table, that would make sense. I get that. Otherwise, it'd be like, why not just have all this silvery white? Why put the original yellowish tone there? Why put the green in there? Have the whole thing be this illustration of silvery white metal. Look really cool, but I love her character. But I wish there was that interaction, like you said, the clinging in the glass. Patrick.
Yes, that's it.
Lithium. Lithium is a sleek element from the group of alkali metals. Inside its core is a soft silvery white metal, which is a source of power. Lithium's lightness allows it to float on top of water. So what made you choose this character, this body shape, this outfit for lithium?
Oh, so the outfit, I was just trying to match the color of its flames without it being exactly that. So
where's it talking about the colors of the flames? Because right here, inside its core is a soft silvery white metal, lightness.
Oh, I didn't really include the color of it.
Got it.
Or like I didn't talk about it.
That's what I would throw in there. Because there is the only color you're really talking about is inside its core is a soft silvery white metal. But I'm seeing a little bit here, a whole lot of color, and I'm not sure where that color is coming from. So if that was used in here, I think it would help. If this is a firework, that's more like a little firecracker. It's really small. Show images of fireworks that are exploding in the background, massive fireworks, stuff you would see at a Disneyland event or on a 4th of July event. So when we're getting that tiny little pop, it doesn't really say fireworks as much. Emphasize that, especially if that's what it's being used for. It also sells fireworks. So make sure we emphasize that explosive nature, mention the color, then that would make sense. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
There we go. Periodic table. Oh, we talked about that one. Lindsay. I know Lindsay is in here.
Hi.
How's it
Oh, there
going?
you go. Sorry, hi. My microphone.
I wish you would do more of these. This is an awesome little character. As soon as I looked at this vapor, I started to feel like I was choking.
Oh.
Like I was starting to breathe heavy. This is great. I got this natural reaction. I don't think it really reads as just paint. It really reads as vapor. How did you get this wispy kind of look to that vapor cloud?
I did the texture. I wanted to use a lot of photo texture because I feel like my rendering isn't that great. I could probably do better on like the actual painting, but with photo one, I actually kind of realized, hey, a lot of the photo textures you see online of like smoke and clouds, they're on like a black background, and then I can use the screen effect, and that's
perfect.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I definitely got that. Here I can see a photo of clouds, right? But I love the fact that not only do you have it kind of walking across this watery surface, you got that kind of reflective quality like we did with the little kid sitting in the lake.
Yeah.
I love that you're throwing that back in there like, hey, that looks familiar. I love that. I love that you're getting the reflection in there. This gas. So what is this? The only thing that's jumping out to me is these little gray spots that are kind of creeping in on our card.
Yeah, I guess they did that to make it look weathered, but it does kind of look more like the MS Paint spray paint effect.
Yeah, because the whole quote unquote weathered look, it's pretty uniform. You wouldn't get weathering just on a corner or just on part of the side. It would naturally occur all over. So if you ever want something that's weathered or degraded, I would go in and type like, rusty metal, weathered metal.
Okay.
And then you drop that on, use blending modes, and you blend that rusted, corroded texture right into your painting, and you will get that overall look. Then with a layer mask, if the corrosion is too uniform, then you just lightly scrape off a little corrosion here and there so it didn't affect it the same all the way across. Then I would get it. I would just take these out. They look like they're strategically placed. One little spot there, one spot exactly the same size, exactly the same size, exactly the same size. And it's weird how your corrosion affects only the corners of this. So it doesn't really work there. Take it out, blend in something that has a corrosive look, and you got it. Just like you're blending in that photo. This, I was like, I wanted to cough when I saw that. That was great. If there's anything else I could maybe add to this, you have this beautiful detail. I love the texture detail. I can see that cloudiness inside that little throat bubble there, which is really cool. It reads as like semi-transparent. I love the fact that you have the textures, the reflections, but we got a big flat gray wall. I would paint maybe a gradient. So you have a white or a light gray that gets darker and darker right down into the water and then fades into the water. Okay.
I think I might add some salt too, just because that's the one thing from the description that isn't.
Let's see. Oh, beyond salt. Okay. So where would you put salt? How would you indicate?
Like chunks of it,
Okay.
The background maybe.
Yeah, there could be a little pile, a mountain of salt here. And put those in there just so we don't have that flat wall and you got a great piece.
Okay.
Great job. You could even throw in a background like it says, for this reason, it was used as a chemical weapon in World War I. If you look at images of like battle scenes, trench warfare, they got all the little X's with all the barbed wire in there. What if this creature was like some disgusting Nazi experiment and is walking through the battlefield and you see the armaments from World War I and you see the smoke and this devastated battlefield, and this creature is just like hacking and coughing up chlorine gas as it walks through some scene in a horror movie. This is just a great character.
Okay, I'll probably do that because I love that horror. So
there we go.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. There we go. Okay, project 2. All right, Lillian.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I am good.
I think you're done now. I love the fact that you unified the composition. We talked about it during office hours before you turned it in. When she came into the office hours, she had type over here on the left, a little character with a couple of little crystals on the right, but they didn't really interact with each other. So I love the fact that these crystals do not strategically just hover around her. They hover around the whole room. It's like they're all flying in to eventually revolve around her, but they're coming in from great distances. They go right off the edge of the page. I thought that was cool. It helped to finish off the scene. You're done.
Yay, thank you.
Element, odorless, tasteless, chemically non-reactive, really doesn't do anything. Glows a blue and lavender. I love the fact that you do not have any other colors in there. Gosh has recently been used in research as a cure for some types of cancers. What was your idea with these? It almost has that aurora borealis kind of look with these little blends and these rays coming down. What made you paint those in?
It's also used for like deep sea exploration, like
Got
as
it.
the lights. Yeah, so I was kind of showing it as like underwater kind of,
Do we
but
mention
not
that?
really. I did not mention it.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for. If you put that in there, or a faint silhouette of fish swimming across here, then I would get it. You know, a really light silhouette. Don't show us details of fish. It's not about fish. But if we get that aspect of deep sea, it is also used for deep sea exploration, or a silhouette of a shipwreck sunk, like they're investigating the Titanic. Something that would tell us why this environment is there, you'd have a great piece. I love the fact that the crystals are kind of floating around. The additional crystals broke up that space really nicely.
Okay, thank you.
Great job. Helen.
Hello.
Hello, how's it going today?
Going good.
I love the fact that you went back, got some feedback before you turned it in, went back and took that feedback to heart, blended in some of that outline to the rest of your illustration. It definitely helped. Thing that I love the most is the lack of color. I love the fact that you're showing Mercury with just a little hint of blue, and then all the rest is gray background, gray type, gray. That's what made it great. If there was a hint of pink or purple, I'd be like, where's that coming from? So the lack of color was awesome. I think you're done.
Actually, for the font, for the Mercury and the HG, actually I was gonna leave it gray, but I decided to put like a white stroke behind it because just to make it pop a little bit, because I didn't want it to blend in with the background.
I was gonna say, yeah, the background, you have some of that darker gray right near your type. So the white around that definitely helps. I think having a graphic stroke around type, which is not character, totally works. So I didn't even mention it. It worked. You're done. Great job. Janice.
Hello.
Niobium. Niobe, daughter of Tantalus. She was known for her many children. She would boast that she was superior than Titanus Leto because she only had 2. Well, that's really mean. In a rage, Leto killed all her children. They were turned into stone. Let's see, the entire town turned into stone. On the 10th day, the gods were able to bury her children. Niobe returned to her home and turned to stone herself. She continues to weep. So I love that you're leading up to that. At first, when I was reading this, I'm like, okay, where's her children? Where's the city that turned to stone? Why am I reading this? And then all of that led to she turned to stone. She continues to weep. The snow melts. Then I got my illustration. So that was a good little lead up to it. The element is a white metal that forms a film on the surface with tints of blues and greens and yellows. So you're incorporating all the colors, the blues, the greens, the yellows. All your text is describing what we see. I think that was great. I love the fact you went back in and added a little more contrast to the edges of the character. So again, we can see the hands against the face, the skin tone against skin tone, that fade into the rockier texture down there. I love the fact that you gave it a little more hint of that blue to give it that icy look. I don't know what else I would add to this after going back and forth on those changes. I think you're done.
Yay. Thank you.
Popular in jewelry making, and I love the fact that she has this classic robe. She has that Greek look. The type goes great with that Greek look. The scroll, all of that is picking up off that cultural aspect. So great job on your choices.
Hey, thank you so much. And
Yep.
yeah, all your feedback helped out tremendously.
Yeah, I wish I would get that chance with everybody. Potassium. This guy would make a great little stuffed animal character. Like if we went to the Science Discovery Center and they're selling chemistry books, like, mommy, I want potassium. I want potassium. I'll name her Potassi. Just a cute little character. Tina.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. Now you are also done. You got that really painterly look that we were going for. I love the fact that you have a unified illustration, the grass coming in, the character sitting in the grass covering up the bottom edge. So it's not just floating, it's in the surface of the grass coming out from behind. There's a foreground, a middle ground, a background, incorporating the color back into the type. Bold text, it's easy to read. Soft and white and silvery luster. It has a low melting point, so it almost looks like it's starting to melt right there. Good conductor of heat and electricity, which is why it would melt. Imparts a lavender color to a flame, and its vapor is green. Everything is described here. Used to make fertilizers, which stimulates plant growth. You nailed it. It is the clearest one. You're done.
Thank you.
Great job. Fun character, great painterly look to that. Awesome. If there's anything I found in illustration is you do not need to put every single detail in an illustration. Because when Tina first showed that, she's like, I don't know, it doesn't look realistic. Like, doesn't have to be realistic. You nailed it. Danny.
Hello.
How is Mercury so popular? Got like 3 or 4 Mercuries. What made you choose Mercury?
I don't know. I think it looks really pretty. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's mostly it. I just really liked the way that I looked up some images of Mercury and it looks really glowy and shiny and I liked it.
I love how you're picking up off Quicksilver. Mercury is a shiny silvery metal, sometimes called Quicksilver. It's the only metal that is liquid. I love the fact that it's dripping. It's almost at its melting point. Mercury has the ability to conduct electricity and is lethal. I love the fact, again, you don't just have electricity right here. You have it flowing throughout the rest of the piece, which is great. Using fluorescent lamps, so you got that fluorescent color around your type. Again, you're showing all those elements in here. This is another one. I don't know what else I would add. I mean, you got just a hint of a ground plane by going with this darker value and then getting lighter and lighter as we go up. That whole glow aspect to it. You got a really nice, bold, solid looking character in there. He's got a great presence on the page. I think you're done.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, great job. Love the fact that you've unified the illustration. Fun character. What made you determine this body shape, this little bald headed character?
Well, I think originally I was doing like a really cutesy, I was going to do a cutesy, like flowing dancer girl. But then when I went back and I looked at the examples you had, the person who had done Mercury in your examples had done a cute girl in like kind of like a fighter pose. And I was like, oh, I must have like subliminally like put that into my mind.
I always struggle with that.
Yeah.
How many samples should I show?
Yeah, exactly. And then it said that it was, I think it's a heavy metal. I don't know, did I say that? Oh yeah, it's very dense. So I want to kind of make it like, I don't know, just a thick little character.
I like that you went with very dense and is lethal for humans. So I love the fact that this character is like a Spider-Man villain that could just zap you like Electro. I thought that dense and lethal. That's your character right there. Great job.
Thank you.
Creates a great little super villain. Are there any others? Now that I've gone through that folder, are there any others that kind of snuck in there at the end that I didn't see?
Professor, yeah, mine was one of them. I don't know if you
Okay.
got it.
Who's that speaking?
Same with me.
Sophia.
Sophia, okay. Yeah, let me grab that one. And Sebastian, I thought I downloaded yours. Okay, let me go back and get yours again. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, because it came up as just under the name Project 2. I didn't see the name. Okay, let me go grab those. So let me share my screen one more time here, and we will jump back into it. Get the last two here. All right, let's go back to Photoshop, open, and I'm gonna go to my downloads. Nope, I gotta drag those to my folder. Give me a second here to put those in. Always throws me off when I get those last minute entries here. Downloads, there we go. So let's drag those out, put them in my folder here. And table projects. Yeah, that I did have your Sebastian. Okay, I just skipped it because I didn't see a name on it. Okay, so it's Project 2. Oop. All right, let me come back into Photoshop and let me see. I got one more chat element here. Oh, okay. You guys are in. All right, let's go through the last two here. I'm going to go through Sophia's first. Here we go. All right, Cobalt. Sophia, what made you choose Cobalt?
I like the texture and the sapphire kind of look to it.
Your microphone's cutting in and out.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Yeah, my Wi-Fi is kind of spotty. I just like the texture of it and how it looked physically. I just like the color of it, the shiny the shiny metal substance, and the I like kind of like the blue glowing sapphire look to it.
I like the crystalline texture of the body. I wish there were more highlights in it, only because the only way we're seeing these is little dark edges here and there. But if it has that metallic look, all metal is going to have kind of a reflective quality. So I wish they would come in with like a light, like some of these highlights right here could be hit along the upper left edge of each one of these little crystal shards to really get those to pop out. Okay. Otherwise, the body starts to flatten out a little bit. In terms of your text, I wish there was more text, only because we've got a lot of empty space here. So I wish you would mention more about this. Cobalt is a free element, which is mainly produced by reductive smelting. But we're not mentioning anything about the color, anything about it is a metal, you know, reflective qualities, anything like that. No mention of blue. So if you could be a little more descriptive with your text, it will help define what we're looking at in the illustration. I think that would help it a lot.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And a couple of highlights on that metal would definitely help it.
Got it. Thank you.
And Sebastian, Project 2. Carbon. Carbon is considered to be the atom of life due to mostly everything being carbon-based. That's true. The hardest form of it being diamonds and the softest being. First thing I would do is get rid of your hyphenated words, especially when you have two hyphenated words right next to each other. In any program, if I go to my type tool and I hit Command T, whoops, I gotta click first, Command T for type, on your paragraph panel, always in the lower left corner is the hyphenate button. I would get rid of that so you don't have any of those strange hyphenations, especially when you're talking about the two elements being diamonds and graphite. Diamonds and graphite. We got to be able to read that really quickly. So I would make sure you don't hyphenate those. It's most commonly and naturally found as charcoal. So I love the fact you're talking about diamonds and charcoal. Those are not colorful elements. It makes sense that we find it here. What I'm looking at is the overwhelming sense of magenta in here. Where did that color come from?
Random, honestly.
Okay.
I was gonna put like a regular smoke since that's how charcoal is burned, but it blended too much with the character, so I just chose another color.
Hardest one. I would make, if we can make some kind of reference to that color, just because when you glance at it, that color is kind of really dominant. It's almost overtaking the character. So I want to make sure that there's a reason for that color being there. Is most commonly and naturally found as charcoal. I would still, or just play off this character as if it was found in a charcoal field. Just do the whole thing as a black and white illustration and keep it as that. You know, if it blends, tone down the opacity, add more shadows here and there. You can always take a finished painting like this, come back in with your burn tool. And if I came in on an element right here, set my midtones, I could burn in some really deep shadows on this character, you know, right in here, burn in some of the wings or right against the edge of the body, come in with my shadows. That means I darken in the darker areas, add more contrast to your character, lighter grays and smoke like this old industrial charcoal facility. Maybe there's like a big metal ramp where they're digging up charcoal, like an industrial site, and this character just rises out of the charcoal. That would look kind of cool, but it's just kind of floating in this sea of magenta and there's no mention of the magenta. So I think a background illustration or background scene representing where this would be found would definitely help it. Not the character itself. I love the texture that you're getting in there. It's a really unique, kind of quirky little character. I love that. I would come in with a background that helps to support the character itself. And then just zoom in on a little bit of the cleanup. You can see kind of a straight edge from your layer mask and things like that. Come in and brush out a little bit of these elements here. And I think you'd have a piece that gives this character a sense of belonging. Where is it coming from? And it would help you to tell the story better. Okay.
All right. Thanks.
All righty, sir. So do you guys need a quick break?
I'm okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Just want to make sure. I want to show you just a couple of things to watch out for the last two chapters, chapter 9 and 10. Remember, chapter 9 is about photo retouching. Chapter 10 is your pen tool. You should have a breeze going through the pen tool in Adobe Photoshop. It's really chapter 9 that might be new to some people. So I'm just going to point out a couple of things to watch out for when it comes to chapter 9. So I'm going to come in here on my desktop to the summer right there and go to my weekly files, chapter 9. And content aware healing. Okay, one of the things I mentioned in chapter 9 is do not do your work on your original layer. Always hit Command J. A lot of Photoshop work, especially with photo retouching, is experimental. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. What I would do is focus on simple areas. Especially when people have big photo retouching jobs, they try out the hardest part first. And when they screw that up, the rest of the job looks impossible as well. Okay, so one of the last things on earth I use for photo retouching is the photo retouching tool. That's the clone stamp. That's the last thing you look for. So right here, your spot healing brush. It has a button right up here called Content Aware. And what that does is it makes it aware of the surrounding values. So when you go to approach this one, I would look at the dark browns and paint over those, then the lighter browns, then the darker browns, then the lighter browns, then the darker browns. Because even though you're just simply painting, in the background, millions of calculations are happening. Photoshop is calculating all these different surrounding values and textures, mixing up an algorithm based on the averages, and then dropping that average right back on top of where you painted. It's like Photoshop magic. So if I had a photo like this, I would focus all the way around this guy. I'm not even worried about the zebra yet, because the zebra obviously has all the details. So I'm trying to avoid those for right now. I'm going to come in. And the other thing you want to try is try to do it all at once, but that leaves a big smudge, because I tried to force Photoshop to do too much at one time. So I try it. If it doesn't work, that's the beauty of Command Z. And then I try to let Photoshop just do a little bit of the job. Okay. Then if I'm forcing it to do too much like that, then I'll come back and say, okay, let me hit half of the job. That's still not working. So what I'm going to have to do then is jump back in with my clone stamp, cover up the fact that it didn't work as well as I wanted it to. Okay. Before I rely on that clone stamp, try a smaller brush. See if that helps. That already is looking better. Okay. Because that fence line was surrounded by a ton of extra color. This is not. I just have a little bit of shadow above and below, but I can get through it a little better with a smaller brush. Then I come back in with a slightly bigger brush right in here, do little bits and pieces there. And then we'll take some of this out, go with a bigger brush for the bigger areas. But right there, I get a really flat look. So your clone stamp is going to pick up and help you to cover up the mistakes, like softening up the edge of that shadow, bringing in some lighter dirt right in there and bringing those in. Okay, so look for those kind of things when you're approaching this. But notice I'm only concerning myself with the outer edge. Then you'll hear me talk about coming inside on the details. And when you do that with your spot healing brush, it does not work well on edges. Okay, don't run it over the top of this zebra's ear. You will slice off the top of that zebra's ear. Okay, so I would go right next to the ear, like that, right next to the ear over there. If I start to see horizontal smudges, paint it up in the direction of the hair, like you're combing the zebra's hair. Go in the directions of the damage. That can also help to blend pixels out. Okay, when it comes to physical edges, your clone stamp is the only photo retouching tool that is going to work on the physical edges of an object, like that. Okay, so keep that one in mind when you go to work on those files. Okay, the other one that you're going to be dealing with in chapter 9 is the patch tool. So what I want to get across in this one is when it comes to the word photo retouching, that is not, oh, I got to go grab the clone stamp. Okay, the clone stamp is like the last thing you do. So whenever I think of photo retouching, I go with my patch tool for flat open areas. Remember, the only one that will work on a physical edge is your clone stamp. You would never take the patch tool right on the edge of his shoulder and pull it out, because you will create more damage. So keep that in mind. The only thing that's going to work on a physical edge is your clone stamp. But if I looked at this, that's a lot of damage on this surface. So the patch tool is the easiest one. Select your damage, drag it to a clean area, and patch in the result. What's also going to help is if I go next to an edge, like his ear, that's fine. You don't go over the edge, because then you're going to blur that. It's going to ruin your photo even more. Okay, so just be really aware of that with the patch tool. Don't run it over edges. Okay, this photo cannot 100% be done with the patch tool. It's going to be a combination. Patching for simple areas, clone stamp for more detailed areas. You have the color that is way off. Old photos do not turn yellow, they turn more brown. So a great trick for vintage photography is to take your final image, make some adjustments to the hue and the saturation, and colorize the photo. The default will be a red. Okay, old photos don't turn red either. They turn with the hue to a brownish tint, but they don't turn so brown. So you desaturate the brown. So you get kind of a warm gray tone. That's what old photos tend to look like. So we're trying to be as vintage as possible. Tint it out, and then I'm going to ask you at the end to apply a color tint of red back into his tie. Just like you color tinted the doll from chapter 7, a brand new layer set to overlay allows you to color tint. Overlay mode color tints photography. So you could just paint a color tint. Nobody's tie is going to look that red. So right next to your overlay is your layer opacity. You just blend the color back in. If you ever need to erase in Photoshop, use your layer mask. D for default colors, X for black, and you just scrape away the extra paint you don't want. Okay, the whole idea with that is if I scrape away too much, X for white, and I cover up my mistakes. I always use a layer mask. I don't care that I've been using Photoshop for almost 30 years. I'm still human. I'm still going to make painting mistakes. So I always want a way out of those mistakes. And that's going to be with my layer mask. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And there, you're going to add that little color tint. Give him a red tie.
Professor?
Yeah.
I had a question. Actually, I have a personal photo.
Yes.
Kind of like this. What if we actually wanted to turn like, let's say, a very vintage photo, but with color? How would we use the color tinting method, just like the Barbie doll, or?
That's exactly what you do.
Oh,
if you had a photo that's old black and white, and let's say my mom said, "Hey, can you put great grandpa in a blue coat?" There is no blue anywhere in this photo. I would have to physically add that in by color tinting the photo. So you would do that, overlay mode. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's super helpful. Thank you.
Okay, I've had people try to do this. Let me just show you on this left half of the jacket. They will select like this, and then they'll try to come in image adjustments, hue and saturation. They'll go, okay, maybe I want his jacket to look a little more blue. It's all right, but I'm only faced with the blue it's going to give me. I don't really have a choice of what shade of blue. So when I choose to paint, I get to pick what blue that is. This is just going to render whatever blues are available in the hue bar. But I could darken that in, but it looks kind of flat, and I could highlight and shadow it or whatever I want to do. It helps if I physically add it in myself because I have more control over the process. Okay. So keep that in mind. I'm going to ask you to go through on that one. And the other one I'm going to be showing you is retouching tricks. Okay. What I want to get across, especially if this is our last week. I don't know if I mentioned this in the tutorial video, but the story behind this photo is that the person who hired me to do it was a past student of my class. She took my class, I showed photo retouching, and a year or two later, she came back and said she had this photo to retouch, and she had been working on it for 2 weeks. and couldn't make it look right. She asked if I could do it. Okay. And I gave her a hard time, but in a joking way. I'm like, really? You took my class. Why are you hiring me to do this? I taught you how to do it. That just seems like a waste of money. She's like, money? Well, I don't work for free. What do you mean money? Yeah, you're hiring me. I've already taught you to do that. So why are you back in my life? Why am I doing this job for you when you should know how to do it? So again, if you don't practice with it, you're going to lose it. And by practicing on photos, you're going to learn more approaches, more circumstances. If a photo is this is a method I try. If a photo has this in it, I would take this approach. Just by glancing at the photo, again, by doing this over and over, year after year, I can literally see almost a tutorial running through my thoughts. I know the steps I'm going to take before I ever touch the file. And I did it by cheating. Okay. If I evaluated what I have to do, luckily she or her head was facing right at the camera. So I literally just stole the left side of her head, Command J. I edited and transformed and flipped her head over. There we go. She has no more damage, but she looks like an alien right now. So Command T, I can rotate, but the problem is I don't know where to rotate that head to. So if you need to see, you know, you have layer opacities. I could drop that out. I can line up her eye right there. I can hit Command T and put my reference point in her eye so I could rotate her head and match up her jawline, her mouth, her eyes, her nose, all of that. When I bring it back up, I know I can erase edges because I've used layer masks 5,000 times. D for default colors, X for black. And I know that if I have a soft brush, I can blend pixels together like that. Okay. Right in there. I can blend this photo right back together. So she has that clean look. I photo retouched her and I didn't even touch anything yet. I can click right there, come back into inverse, go to my layer mask and paint all that out right there. So all I need to photo retouch is a blank wall. And I will let you know when I was doing this. Okay, this is the other thing I really want to encourage in you. When I was doing all this work, the person who hired me was sitting right there and I could tell she was getting frustrated. I could hear her because she kept huffing and puffing. So I joked around like, are you having an asthma attack? Is your breathing okay? Should I call 911? What's going on here? It's like, that's cheating. Okay. Do not let people intimidate you. I swear to you, if you are working as freelance, everyone who hires you wants to pay you as little as possible. Okay. They will come up with every excuse or argument as to why they should pay you less. Do not fall under that pressure. Okay. Especially when I've had to work with the customer right there. They see what you're doing. They're like, hey, you didn't do much. I go, no. You're paying me for the 8 years of college that I took to learn how to do this in 20 minutes. Okay. I could sit there and be as slow as you and work for 2 weeks, but you need it done. I don't have to sit there for 2 weeks. You're paying me for my skill set. Okay. Justify that. Otherwise, you're gonna be like, no, that took you 10 minutes. I'm not paying you $75. Then you be willing to close it and say, okay, never mind. I won't save it. Do it yourself. Be willing to walk away from a job if that is the situation. Okay. I've walked away from a few where the customer is just being a total jerk and like, you know what? This ain't even worth it to me. So good luck. don't call me again, lose my number, and you're on your own. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing in chapter 10 is showing you the pen tool. You're going to experiment by tracing over simple elements. Then I'm going to ask you, once you know how the tracing tool works, the pen tool works in Photoshop, you're going to trace around this figure, cut out the figure, and add him back to this background scene. What I do in the tutorial is, again, I think the way the computer works. You break things down and you simplify your approach to anything creative. I would never think of recording this and just doing one huge tracing. What I do is I think of him in sections. The section of his shirt, then the section of the arm, then the section of a sleeve, then the section of the back of his hand, then the section of the drill bit. Break things down into simple components. It would work great, because even though I have a character like this, okay, sometimes if you take your quick selection tool, there is very little difference in the value between his neck and the sky. So when there is very little difference, you're going to get kind of a rougher selection around your objects. Obviously, the cheek is going to work great because there's a lot of contrast. I didn't have control over that. So he's got these little hairs on the back of his neck. You're going to get a very bumpy, very rough edge. And you got to know which tool is right for which job. I see people using the quick selection tool all the time to try to cut out a car. And the edges of the car have dents all over it. It looks terrible. Okay. When something has a smooth edge to it, there's nothing that can beat the smoothness of the pen tool, because you have control over exactly where that curve goes. And that curve is going to render just like cutting him out with a pair of scissors. So you have control over where your curves are. So this would be a case of using the pen tool in Photoshop. Okay, and your pen tools can make selections and everything else. So chapter 9 is about photo retouching. Chapter 10 is about the pen tool. And just so you know, a couple of people pointed it out that for some reason, there are a couple of files missing in chapter 9. I went back and fixed those. So right here, when you go down to the chapter 9 module here in Photoshop, you have 4 files right there. The zebra, you're going to take out the wrinkles on an old lady's face. You're going to retouch that vintage photo, and you're going to do the retouching tricks. And then you have 4 files from chapter 10 as well. So those are all fixed there. And then again on Wednesday, I'll show you examples of the final exam, 40 questions based on everything we've already done this summer session. And that will finish us up. And then we'll have one last meeting on Thursday just to add any few final notes, and we'll be done. So keep that in mind. Okay. Any other last minute questions for today?
So we are meeting Thursday also?
I will make it optional.
Okay.
I will have a meeting at 1 p.m. just to say, hey, thanks everybody for putting your education in my hands for the last 5 weeks. I appreciate it. I do not do end of class parties. I get all depressed. I always tell my class, I get really depressed when our time is over. And my attitude is more like, just leave. Just go. You're bumming me out. I'm not going to get to work with you anymore. So go, leave. And then people sit around there in the Zoom meeting. I'm like, really, Amy, there's nothing left. Go enjoy your summer. I got nothing for you. I'm done. Okay. Great job. I'm bummed that I don't get to work with you anymore. So, I mean, you guys did great stuff for me with these projects. So then I'm like, damn, that's my only time I get to have with them. What a bummer. So yeah. So I'm like, just leave. It's very unceremonious at the end. Okay. Could we fix up the project for more points? Absolutely. Anything I commented about your projects today, you can make those changes and resubmit them in an email to me by midnight Thursday. Okay? Just email it back to me. Do you guys have any other final comments for today?
I just have a personal question after class is over.
Sure. Yeah, stick around. Okay. I'm going to
I have
stop.
a quick question.
Yes.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I named my file the JPEG wrong. So should I?
Nah, don't worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
Cool.
Just like
Thank you.
Sebastian named his project Project 2.
I did the same thing.
I'll go ahead and change the names for you. Don't worry. Yeah, not a problem. Anybody else have